This video is about writing instruction in early childhood. I'm Muriel Rand from New Jersey City University. First, I want to start by discussing what is writing, because we use that word in a lot of different ways. Writing has two parts. It's the ideas of the story or the book that you're writing, and then there's the way we write the ideas, like handwriting and mechanics. The New Jersey standards for writing are focused on the ideas that children generate in order to be an author. So think of the New Jersey writing standards as preparing children to be authors. There are three kinds of text types and purposes that we teach in the early grades. The first is writing opinion texts. The second is writing informational texts. And the third is writing narrative texts or stories. The second part of the standards is how we do those three kinds of writing. And this is called the production and distribution of writing. Standard number 5 is getting and using feedback to improve the writing, either from an adult or from their peers. And standard 6 is publishing their writing. So this second group of standards is focused on the writing process. Here are the steps in the writing process. This is sort of the expanded version of the writing process. First, an author brainstorms, and then they organize their information into some kind of a rough draft. For children, that can often be pictures. Then they draft their work, they start their writing. Then we revise, and revising is moving things around, changing the organization, changing the kind of words we use, adding more words, realizing that some words we don't need. And then the next step is proofreading or editing, and that's where we just check the spelling, grammar, capitalization, punctuation. And then finally we publish. And publishing means to make it public. Publish and public come from the same root, so it means to share your writing with someone else. And then the third part of the writing standards is research to build and present knowledge. So standard 7 is to participate in shared research and writing projects, and standard 8 is to recall information from experiences or gather information from provided sources to answer a question. So these two standards help prepare students to do research projects in later grades. So again, there are three parts to the writing standards. The first is the kind of writing we do. The second part is how we do it, the writing process. And the third part is research. Now, what about preschool? I often hear teachers say that my children can't write yet. Well, preschool children can write, because remember that writing is about communicating your ideas. So young children can use drawings, dictation, where we write down their words, scribble writing, letter strings, or invented spelling. The focus for writing in preschool should be on sharing their thoughts through these different kinds of writing. It's not about how they form the letters or how well they write their name, or even learning the different letters or how to put spacing in their words. That's not part of the writing. We're going to get to that in a minute. In preschool, it should be on them sharing their ideas. So tell me a story, or they write a picture. Tell me more about your picture. What does that picture show? So we want to encourage children to share their opinions through drawings or invented spelling, or again, write down what the child dictates. Dictation is very powerful in preschool. We also want to encourage children to share what they know about different topics, again, by having them draw, use invented spelling, or write down what the child dictates. So again, the opinions, the informational text for topics, and then stories. And then children can tell their stories through their drawings. Same thing, invented spelling, scribble writing, letter strings, however they communicate their ideas. But writing is about ideas. So the preschool writing process is going to look a little different than the one I just went over, because we want to keep this developmentally appropriate. So the first thing we want to do is to get children to think about what they want to write. And this works really well as a turn and talk or small group discussions. And then they usually draw. They usually start by drawing. In kindergarten, we can do the same thing. And then they might write. They might add words to their drawings or scribble writing, or they might dictate to you. So maybe they've drawn a picture of going to the firehouse, and then you're going to add the words to it that they tell you to write. And then finally, we publish their work. So this can be sharing their drawing with friends, with family, posting them on the wall, creating a classroom book. Any of those ways of publishing their writing works well. Now, do we have to publish all their writing? Of course not. Do we use the writing process for everything they write? No, absolutely not. But the writing process should be a major part of your curriculum. It should happen at least every week. Now, what about handwriting in preschool? Handwriting is part of the language standards, not the writing standards. So it's helpful, but not necessary for writing. Think about it. Someone who is disabled and unable to handwrite can still author a book. So in preschool, we're going to teach handwriting as a fine motor skill activity throughout the day and at centers. But that's not the focus of our writing standards. Remember that our writing standards are communicating ideas. Handwriting is part of the language standard. What about handwriting, spelling, and punctuation in K3? Well, these are, again, often taught during language instruction. They can be used to make writing ready for publishing, but they should not be the focus of writing. So again, in the writing process, we're going to use handwriting, spelling, and punctuation to make things appropriate so that somebody else can read it. But that's not the focus. Expression of ideas is the focus of writing. What about capital, spelling, and punctuation? Same thing. They use these during the editing phase of writing, and they're taught during language. The important thing is for students to communicate their ideas in a thoughtful way. Editing comes later and is not appropriate in preschool or early kindergarten. Editing, I would say, would start with your more mature kindergartners towards the end of the year, and then it can really take part more in first grade and on up. So in summary, writing is about communicating ideas. The New Jersey writing standards have 3 parts. The first part are the text types and purposes, which is informational writing, opinion writing, and narrative writing. The second part is the writing process that we teach children how to write. We teach them the steps in this writing process. And then the third part is research. And spelling, capitalization, punctuation is only focused on during revising and editing, and we don't do that in preschool, and it is not the major focus of writing. So I hope this video will help you to work more effectively in teaching writing to your children.